part of the hip hop culture. Like they think that they are telling something, or just mind your business.
What if the most dangerous weapon in hip-hop right now isn't a diss track, isn't a leaked audio, isn't even a documentary, but the idea that a documentary exists? Because that's where this whole thing starts. Not with footage, not with proof, but with a threat so perfectly timed, so precisely placed, that it started destroying reputations before a single episode ever aired. And somehow, right in the middle of that storm, Katt Williams' name gets pulled into the conversation like he knows something, like he saw something, like he said something he wasn't supposed to say. And the question that keeps floating around, the one nobody answers directly, the one that makes this whole situation feel bigger than rap beef, bigger than promo, bigger than entertainment, is simple. Why did everything go quiet at the same time? Because silence in this situation doesn't feel like peace. Silence feels like strategy. Silence feels like someone is waiting. This whole thing really starts when T.I. decided to challenge 50 Cent publicly, loud, in front of everybody. Versus style, legacy versus legacy, Atlanta versus New York, a battle that would have been massive. But 50 didn't respond like a rapper. He responded like a man who had something in the vault. And instead of a diss track, instead of a freestyle, instead of going bar for bar, he dropped something colder, a screenshot, a headline, a caption, and then he deleted it. And that delete button might be the most important move in this entire story, because the post disappearing is what made it feel real. If it stayed up, it's promotion. If it disappears, it's a warning. And that's when the word started spreading, surviving T and Tiny documentary. Not a song, not a rumor, a documentary. That word hits different, because documentaries don't sound like opinions. They sound like evidence. They sound like court. They sound permanent. And suddenly, old footage starts resurfacing everywhere. Courtrooms, interviews, prison clips, old cases, old headlines. But now they're not being watched like history anymore. They're being watched like someone is building a case in real time. And the most genius part of the whole move? Nobody can prove what's real and what's just being repackaged, because all it takes is the belief that 50 has more footage that nobody has seen yet. That's when the internet did what the internet always does. It filled in the blanks. Channels started posting leaked episode 1, exclusive footage, documentary clips, and the views went crazy. Not because people knew it was real, but because people believed it could be real. And belief is enough. In the digital world, belief is evidence. And right when this storm is building, right when T.I. is trying to roll out a retirement album, trying to control his legacy, trying to write his final chapter on his own terms, suddenly the conversation is no longer about music. It's about allegations. It's about court. It's about the past being dragged into the present at the worst possible time. And then things went from strategic to personal. Not rap personal, family personal. Because when sons get involved, the rules change. One son made a diss track. That's still hip-hop. That's still within the culture. But the other son printed 50 Cent's late mother's face on a product and started selling it. And in that moment, this stopped being a rap beef and turned into something else entirely. Something emotional, something messy, something that can't be walked back with a tweet or a freestyle. And you could see it on T.I.'s face when he sat down for that interview. That wasn't a rapper talking. That was a father realizing the situation had gone somewhere he couldn't control anymore. And that's the part that makes people uncomfortable, because this whole situation feels like something is unfolding in slow motion, like a chess game where one player already made his move weeks ago and everyone else is just now realizing the board changed. The documentary doesn't even have to come out anymore, because the idea of it already did the damage. The threat is permanent. The question is permanent. The doubt is permanent. And the most dangerous thing you can attach to a man's name is not a charge, not a case, not even a video. It's a question that never gets answered. And right now, there's one question hanging over this entire situation like smoke that never clears. What does 50 actually have? And why did Katt Williams hint that the vault and the trailer are not the same thing? And the longer this situation sits unresolved, the more dangerous it becomes. Because a rumor has a lifespan, a news story has a lifespan, even a scandal has a lifespan. But a question can live forever. And that's the space this whole situation moved into. Not proof, not lies, just permanent intense suspicion, the kind that follows a name every time it's searched, every time it's mentioned, every time a career retrospective gets written. That's why this was never just a rap beef. Rap beef ends when someone wins. This doesn't end because there's nothing to win against. You can't diss a documentary that hasn't come out. You can't defend yourself against footage nobody has seen. You can't clear your name against a threat that lives in the future. And that's why the deleted post was the real weapon, not the caption, not the headline, the deletion. Because deleting something tells the world there's more that can't be said publicly. It creates the feeling that lawyers are involved, that footage is sensitive, that something bigger is happening behind the scenes. Whether that's true or not almost doesn't matter anymore because the psychological effect already worked. Millions of people saw the screenshot. Millions of people saw the headline. And now it's attached forever. That's how reputation wars are fought in the digital age. Not with proof, but with permanent association. But here's where the story takes another strange turn. And this is where Katt Williams' name becomes important again. Because Katt has built a reputation over the last few years as the one person who will say what everyone else is too scared to say. He went on interviews and named names. He talked about deals he turned down, money he refused, doors he wouldn't walk through. He positioned himself as someone outside the system, someone who doesn't play by industry rules. So when he jokes about 50 Cent in documentaries and says it's the trailer, not the vault, the internet doesn't hear a joke. The internet hears a warning. The internet hears coded language. The internet hears someone hinting that what people are seeing right now is only a small piece of something bigger. And whether Katt meant it that way or not doesn't even matter anymore because the narrative already formed. Now his name is attached to the idea that there is a vault, not clips, not YouTube compilations. A vault, exclusive footage, secrets, things that were never supposed to be public. And once people believe a vault exists, they start looking at everything differently. Every old interview becomes a clue. Every resurfaced court clip becomes evidence. Every deleted post becomes confirmation that something is being hidden. And look at the pattern, because the pattern is what makes this whole thing feel less like chaos and more like design. First, there's a public challenge, then a personal diss, then a documentary threat, then a deleted post. Then old footage resurfaces everywhere at the exact same time. Then family members jump in and make it more emotional, more viral, more uncontrollable. Then an interview happens where T.I. looks like a man trying to stop a fire that already reached the walls. Then 50 goes quiet. Then Katt Williams' Netflix special drops and he mentions 50 in documentaries. Then the internet starts connecting dots whether they're real or not. And then silence again. And silence at the end of a situation like this is not normal. Normally, people deny. Normally, people sue. Normally, people expose. Normally, someone produces paperwork, screenshots, voice recordings, something. But here, there's just enough information to keep the story alive and not enough information to end it. And that's a very specific place to land. Because as long as the story is unfinished, everyone involved stays trapped inside it. Every interview becomes awkward. Every album release gets overshadowed. Every public appearance comes with the same question hanging in the air that nobody can fully answer. And the person who understands that better than almost anyone in entertainment is 50 Cent. He's been doing this for years, not just making music, but controlling narratives, producing shows, telling stories, exposing people through documentaries instead of diss tracks. That's a different type of power. A diss track lives for a few weeks. A documentary lives forever. A diss track is opinion. A documentary is presented like fact. So even the threat of one changes how people see you. And if you step back and look at the entire situation from far away, it starts to look less like random drama and more like layers. On the surface, it's a rap beef. Under that, it's a media war. Under that, it's a legacy war. And under that, it's something else. Control of narrative, control of history, control of how a person will be remembered when the music stops and the cameras turn off. Because that's really what this whole thing is about. Not winning an argument today, but deciding what the story will be 10 years from now when someone makes a documentary about all of them. And that might be the most uncomfortable part of this entire story. The idea that the real battle isn't happening on Instagram, or on songs, or on podcasts, but in footage archives, hard drives, old tapes, unreleased unreleased interviews, court documents, things that can be put together later into a story that millions of people will watch and accept as the official version of what happened. So when Katt Williams says it's the trailer, not the vault, that line sticks in people's heads because it sounds like a man saying, what you see right now is not the real play. The real play is what comes later. And whether he meant that as a joke, a jab, or a warning, it landed at the exact moment when the entire hip-hop world was already looking at 50 Cent like a man holding something he hasn't shown yet. And maybe that's why the culture got quiet. Because if this was just rap, people would be picking sides loudly. If this was just rumors, someone would have already debunked everything. But when documentaries, allegations, families, and reputations all get mixed into the same situation, people stop talking publicly because nobody wants to be on the wrong side of something that might turn into evidence later. So the situation just sits there, unresolved, like a file on a desk that nobody wants to open but nobody can throw away. And the longer it sits there, the more powerful it becomes. Because mystery is always more powerful than truth. Truth ends a story. Mystery keeps it alive. And right now, this story is very much alive.